This video is going to show you how to move a subject from one image and put it into another. The example I'm using is an example of one time you might want to do this. I was on a hike with a group of friends out in the middle of nowhere. We did not have a tripod, and we wanted a group picture. So I took a picture of the group, and then I had somebody in the group take a picture of the same scene with me in it. And then I moved me into the final image, so we were all in one picture. So I'm going to show you several ways to do this, but to get started, let's go to whatever Adobe software you have and go to File, Open, and you will find a folder in Saturday called Combining Parts of an Image. If you'll open that folder, I have first of all, a PDF file telling you how to do this. So you're welcome to see every step on that. But let's take 13, 14, and 15 and open those three images. To see them all, I'm going to open the Elements photo bin. And if you have your images tabbed to the top bar and on a tab, it's in this activity, it's going to be good to pull them off the tab. You can actually go to the window, images, and say float all in Windows, and that would take them off the tab. Or if you've set your program up correctly, you can do that simply by pulling them off the tab. So in my case, I have three images I can see down here. And the one I want you to look at and then discard is the group shot here, old truck group. This is after I took me and added me to an image of the rest. So you can see the final, what we're looking at. Now if you will close number 15 so it's not in the way. And what you're left with are two images. And I'm going to pull one off the other so I can see them both. So what is important is number 13 is the picture I took, and it has 4 people in it. If you click on image 14, you'll see the one girl behind the steering wheel is gone. She's now our photographer. And I stepped in the picture where I knew I could be added on the end. So our challenge now is to take me out of this picture and put me in the group shot. At this point, I'm making an addition to my original recording to make it more current. And so I hope it looks pretty much like it did in the first part. And what I'm going to do is to show you several ways in which I can move myself from this image into the image that I took where I'm missing. And so there are several ways of doing it. And I've decided to put them all in the same recording so that perhaps the Photoshop CC users could watch the method that's provided in the guided mode of Photoshop Elements. Sometimes people have an old unused copy of Photoshop that still has a guided mode with this process, and you might find it the easiest way to do this. But I will also show you the normal way that can be done either in Photoshop CC or in Photoshop Elements, doing it manually in the regular edit mode. So let's start and look at the magic that's provided in Photoshop Elements. So I'm going to go from the expert mode that I've been working in over to the guided mode. And in the guided mode, in the options up here, there's a photo merge choice. And when you choose that, you get several choices, and one is photo merge group shot. It's made to do exactly what we want to do. So I'm going to click on that and bring it up. And the first thing it asks us is to decide what is the base image that's going to have something added to it. And actually what you see here, I'm going to make the base image. So I go down to the bottom and I find the one that matches what's in that, and I take that and drag it over to the right. And so now I have what I want to be the base image over here on the right. And it tells me that I need to drag a different photo to the left to make it the image that we're going to copy from. And I've discovered the way to do that is find it and then just click on it and it appears over there. Now, Since I've practiced this before, and Elements is good at remembering what you did, I did something which you may not see on yours. Can you see that these have been aligned? The original two images were taken by two different people, and the horizon wasn't quite the same. So when you open your program, if you don't have them aligned, I want you to know that over in the advanced options, if you open it and you click on the Align tool, it will align those photos. The other thing to tell you is, in this particular situation, since all I'm moving is the person of me, and I'm not taking background with it, it actually doesn't even matter if it's aligned. But if you want to, that's the method that they give for aligning that picture. And so now up here, it very clearly tells you what to do. And it says with the pencil tool, you're going to draw around the subject that's to be moved. And so if I grab the pencil tool, I have a choice on how large I want that tool to be. Somewhere around 13 to 15 makes it easy to see. So now I'm coming over here and I'm going to hold down the mouse button and I'm going to drive around this and up to the end. And all of a sudden, like magic, it appears in the other image. And it works so well in this situation that when you're doing something that matches this, taking somebody from one picture and putting them in the other, there isn't any simpler way to do it than the way that is shown in Elements. And if you were to proceed from here, you would say Next down at the bottom. And then you have a choice of what you want to do. If you just want to stop right now and not do anything further, you can simply save as and this option and name it, and then determine where it's going to be saved. But if you want to crop it so that it's finished, then you will want to say continue editing, and we all will choose in expert mode because that's where we do our work. So by clicking that image opens. And now I need to warn you that when it gets back there, we now have 3 images. And fortunately, it's pretty clear which one is the new one that has come in because you can see that it needs to be cropped down here in the bottom. So if you want to be sure that's the one you're working on, you click on it down here and it comes to the front. And if you notice, it's the untitled one. It's the one that's just been created. So actually from here, I don't need to go further. You're going to take your cropping tool and crop away the image in the way you want it to appear. If there's any areas that don't match, like if I had not done that alignment, there would be some areas around the edges that were faulty and I would just crop them away. But because they were aligned, I have a fully fine image and I can crop it any way I want. And then of course, once I save it, I can go ahead and develop it further and do any post-processing you want. So this part shows you the way it's done using the guided mode of Elements. I'm now going to show you a method which can be used by Photoshop CC or by Elements working directly in the expert mode. It's the more manual method of accomplishing this. So I need to make the decision of which image is my base image. And I have said before, number 13, which has me not in it, is going to be the base one. That's the one that I took. And I'm going to move into that image my person. So it's there, it's selected, it's over here as the base layer. I'm now going to take the other image, which is 14, and I'm going to add 14 as a layer on top of the base layer. So I need the Move tool. I want to hold the Shift key because I want it to be centered on top of the other image. So with Shift key held, I'm just going to drag this image until it's into 13. So I have a hold of it, Shift key, drag it in and let go. I now have the base image with 2 layers. So if you look over at the Layers panel, you'll see 2 layers. And let's see if we did this correctly. Yes, we did. The top layer has me, in the bottom layer. When I turn off the top layer, the bottom layer is the final one. So I've got the right combination. I now don't need this extra image. So I'm going to close 14, which has me in it. It simply gets in the way. I have everything I need in those 2 layers. Now, for people in Photoshop CC, the thing for you to do now is to align these layers. If you select these layers that are over here, both of them, you can go to that layer menu and choose to align those layers. Elements doesn't yet have that available. So in this case, there isn't any big problem. But for Elements people, if you have a poorly aligned set of images, it is better to go into the guided mode. And here, I can tell you, it will not create any problem. So I'm going to work here on the top, and I'm going to move me from that into the bottom image. And the way I'm going to do it does not involve selecting me. You can see that would be a bit of a mess to get me selected out of that grassy field. And so what I'm going to do is take that top layer and I'm going to hide it by putting a black mask on it so we don't see any of that layer. So to do that, I go to the options for the layers panel. They're at the top in Elements and they're at the bottom of the panel in Photoshop CC, and you'll find a rectangular icon with a little gray circle in it. And normally when you click that, you get a white mask. I want a black mask, and all I have to do is add the Alt or Option key when I click on that icon, and I get a black mask. So what you have now is the original layer visible, and the layer above that I want to get me out of is hidden behind a black mask. Some of you probably have already figured out how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to cut a hole in the black mask to allow me to be visible, and I'm going to continue hiding the rest of the image. And so I need to cut a hole with using the color white. So what I'm going to do is come over here to my box and grab the brush tool. I have to see that white is the foreground color. If there's any question, you reset the basics and make sure you have white and it's on top. You then come to the option bar, which of course is above your image in Photoshop CC, but below in Photoshop Elements. And we want to be sure that we have a soft brush. So I'm going to remind people again that if you wonder if it's really a soft brush, the way we change it and make it softer from the keyboard is to hold down the Shift key and now use the bracket keys to the right of the letter P. Without the Shift key, they make the brush larger or smaller. With the Shift key added, they'll go harder at the right bracket and softer on the left. So if I hold the Shift and I play with the left bracket key next to P, my brush will get a fuzzy edge on it. If you want to see what happens when I do the opposite, if I use the right one, can you see how hard the edges become? Left will make those softer. And you have much easier control of this with that keyboard control. The next thing is I have to be sure my opacity is at 100% because I want to bring me totally back. I don't want to have me coming back as a ghost. And the mode is normal. If you've played with it, you want to be sure it's normal. And then I have to double check to be sure I'm working on the mask. And the mask will be outlined in some manner to show you it's selected. When in doubt, just click on it. Now that I've done that, I have to say, well, where in this picture am I found? If you didn't notice where I am, you can find me by temporarily hiding the mask. That's another neat keyboard control. Hold the Shift key and click on the mask. It's hidden. Can you see that I'm in front of that tree in the back? So when you want to find me, you're going to start painting white over the front of that tree. And I'm just a bit higher up since I'm standing than the man who's sitting behind the wheel. So let's bring the mask back. Just Shift click the mask again. And now I know where I want to cut. So I have to see, do I have a brush that's white? Is it soft? And is it at 100%? And now am I on the mask? Yes, I am. Now I'm going to put this in front of the tree. And I don't want it to be too large while I find me, because I want to find where I am and then carefully only bring me back, not the whole scene. So I'm going to start brushing, and there I found myself. And I might be a little different in this image than I was in the other. I was more centered over the tree, but I found me very quickly. So once I know where I am, I can start bringing me back. I know I have a white sleeve. I want to be sure I bring back the edge of the white sleeve in my hand. I know there's a pant leg down here. I want to be sure I get the pant leg, and then I come across and come up the middle, get the middle of my outfit, come over to the right until I get my shoulder, and I come on down to be sure that I have me completely back. And when I look at it and say, I'm back. And of course, if you had a doubt, like I see a messy shoulder, I'm going to clean over here a little bit more. No, I think that's about right. That's a special shirt that has that little pleat. If I'm in doubt, I could hide the mask and look again at me and notice how much of my jacket is close to the man to be sure I have it back. But, this is not a fancy job, but boy, is that easy. So at this point, you can see how easy this was. And the job is basically done. So what I would do is always save it as a PSD file, which keeps the layer here. And if you had any problems, you could always go back to it. If you're done and you want to finish it, you will simply merge those layers and you'll have one image with all of us in it. Kind of a neat way to do it. And I remind you that there might be situations where you have a family get together and there's no extra person, in which case, if you take the shot and ask everybody to stand still, you can then get somebody else at the edge of the group to leave and come and take the picture. And the method I used for that was I asked the woman, I told her exactly where I stood, so she had that spot. I asked her to review the image I took. So she saw how I had it angled and what was included. And I left it at the same zoom that I'd had before. And then I asked her to take the next shot when I was in it. And of course, I had to know where to add myself so that I would not be covering up anyone who was in the picture before. But it's one way you can magically provide a group shot of everybody when sometimes the photographer is lost from such undertakings.